لله تعالى وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا اللهم ذكرنا ما نسينا وعلمنا ما جهلنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من حال أهل النار لله تعالى. I praise Allah, I glorify Him, and I thank Him for all the blessings without Him being obligated to give anything. And I ask Allah to raise the rank of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and to protect his Muslim nation. I testify no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, the one without a partner, the one without an equal, the one without a similar, the one who is unlike anything in the universe, and nothing in the universe is like Him. He has no father, no mother, no sister, no brother, no son, and no daughter. He exists without time and place because He is the creator of time and place. He does not reside above the throne, and He is not attributed with fatigue, like the Jews say. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the son of Abdullah, the son of Abdul Muttalib, the son of Hashim, from the tribe of Quraysh, is the best creation of Allah, and His final prophet and messenger, sent to all humans and jinn, and He is truthful about everything He conveyed of the revelation. Thereafter, remind ourselves to have the sincere intention for the sake of Allah in attending this session of Islamic knowledge, because having a sincere intention is a requirement to get the reward. So the Muslim, whenever he does a good deed, he has to have the sincere intention for the sake of Allah to get reward for that good deed. The sincere intention means for the Muslim to do the good deed seeking the acceptance of Allah only and not the praise of the people. So alhamdulillah, we are grateful to Allah that we have been guided to Islam, because Islam is the greatest endowment and it is the only valid and correct religion. And we are grateful to Allah that we have been guided to have access to the knowledge of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, because it is the saved group, and the knowledge of Ahlul Sunnah is the key to paradise. The knowledge of Ahlul Sunnah is the life of Islam. So we're going to continue on with the tafsir and recitation of Surah Abasa. We got to ayah number 24. Ayah number 24, we're going to do call and response. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه. So here this ayah has a rhetorical question or an order for a type of rhetoric, an order for the human to look and reflect upon his food, what he eats. So it says, what means, then let man look at his food. Let man be pensive about how Allah created food for him and how that food enters and exits his body. This is an invitation for the heart to think about the greatness of the power of Allah. And because then through the rational evidence, the human being, he can come to the conclusion with certainty that Allah is the creator, or that this universe has a creator, and that creator is not like us in any way. Verse 25, أَنَّا صَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا. Which means that we make water abundantly pour forth. So this means that Allah Ta'ala makes the rain pour down abundantly from the clouds. So this verse is mentioning some, or one of the many blessings that Allah Ta'ala has bestowed upon the human. So that human should know that Allah is the only one that deserves to be worshipped, that they should not worship the idols. Because those idols, they don't make the rain come down. Those idols, they don't make the grass grow. Those idols, they don't make that process by which the goat or the sheep, they eat the grass and then it turns into milk, for example. Allah is the one who makes that happen. ثم شققنا الأرض شقا. Which means then we split the earth with cracks. Allah causes the plants to emerge, splitting the earth apart as they surface. So as you see, like the plants, when they grow in trees, they do break the earth because their roots and other different factors, different things that happen. 27. فأنبتنا فيها حبا. Which means that we make grains grow in it. Allah creates all the staple grains on earth, such as wheat and barley. And could the world survive without these things? Who doesn't eat bread? Almost everybody eats bread. But there are other grains, but still, wheat and barley and other grains. Allah is the one who makes those grow. وَعِنَبًا وَقَضْبًا. Which means, and grapes and dates. Allah also creates grapes and dates. And this is a list of the endowments and blessings that Allah has upon the creations. وَزَيْتُونًا وَنَخْلًا. Which means that olives and palm trees. Allah creates olives and date trees, and they are both known creations, also very important creations. Dates, very important. Olives, very important. وَحَدَائِقَ غُلْبًا. Which means an enclosed, dense gardens. Likewise, Allah creates many walled-in orchards, dense with lofty trees, as mentioned by Az-Zajjaj. So we see this type of vegetation and environment in the wild, like in the rainforest. وَفَاكِهَةً وَأَبًّا. Which means and fruits and forages. Allah creates fruits of different kinds and forages for the animals. So basically, those animals that they also benefit us as well. What do they eat? Who gets them their food? They get it from the forages. When you see the animals like going around and like picking at stuff and eating it, that's foraging, finding stuff to eat. متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم. Which means as provision for you and your livestock. So we see the reason, or one of the wisdoms behind the existence of those things that we mentioned, this long list that we mentioned from 25. أَنَّا صَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا ثُمَّ شَقَقْنَا الْأَرْضَ شَقًّا فَأَنبَتْنَا فِيهَا حَبًّا وَعِنَبًا وَقَضْبًا وَزَيْتُونًا وَنَخْلًا وَحَدَائِقَ غُلْبًا وَفَاكِهَةً وَأَبًّا مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ. لمتاعكم ولأنعامكم، لهذه البهائم التي يستفيد منها الإنسان. So this verse is letting us know Allah, the aforementioned ayahs 27 and 31 mention things Allah created for the benefit of mankind and his livestock. The animals mentioned here are the an'am, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats. So those things are highly beneficial, highly essential to our existence here on earth. What would we do without cattle and sheep and goats and camels. Verse 33. فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الصَّاخَّةُ
فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الصَّاخَّةُ.
Which means, so when the deafening scream comes. This is in reference to the second sounding of the horn on Judgment Day. So it's called as-sakha. There's other names for it as well. But it's an actual sound that deafens the ears from its heavy impact. And it ruptures the hearts of those who hear it, subhanAllah. If you get inside of, and if you get close to like a big, huge speaker, it's gonna hurt. Like if it's a loud sound, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt your ears. And if it has enough bass, it will definitely vibrate your chest. So imagine the sound of the second horn. This is after the world ends. So the second blow of the horn, what happens? Allah Ta'ala, He resurrects Angel Israfil.
When the first blow of the horn, didn't you say like it can happen anytime for the non-Muslims, like when a woman is giving birth?
Yeah, yes.
So, but if he blows the horn and the baby like comes out, is his heart?
Yes, he will die too. Yeah, everything will die. So this is after everything has perished. So the blow of the first horn, it'll occur 100 years after the Muslims leave the earth. Because near the end of the world, there's going to be a time where every Muslim will die at the same time. It's like a wind that comes and takes the souls of the Muslims, and they all die. And the only people that are left on earth are the non-Muslims, the kuffar, the infidels, the blasphemers, and the book, and at that point the Quran will be lifted from the earth. And Prophet Al-Khadir also will die. And there'll be no more Muslims on earth, there'll be no more Quran, and eventually the people, they start to live like savages. Allahu A'lam, like how they start to live, but they won't even mention the name of Allah anymore. They'll live like animals. Those people are the ones that they hear the blow of the first horn that destroys the whole world. And they'll be doing like their day-to-day life like normal. One of them would be like putting the spoon to his mouth, about to eat a bite of food. One of them would be like, working on his yard, on his fence or whatever. A woman will be giving birth, and they hear the sound. It'll be like a crescendo, and it will destroy everything. Everyone will die except those whom Allah will. Yes.
So before you mentioned like the ignorant era, is that what part of it goes with what Anna's worship? Would they count part of the ignorant era?
So it would be, like an ignorant era, but those people, and the rules, this will be after everyone is stamped from the Dajjal. So it's not the same, it's not the same as the ignorant era.
Is that how Juju met Juju died too? Is that how Juju met Juju died too?
That's after that.
Oh.
Yeah, after. So that's like one of the final signs. But so then, after everything dies, except whatever Allah will to remain alive, like some of the angels that carry the Arsh, and some of the things that are existing in paradise, and nothing will be alive except Allah. And then 40 years will pass, and then Allah will resurrect Angel Israfil, and He will order him to blow the horn a second time, and that would be the resurrection. 34 and 36. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه. Those three together. يوم يفر المرء من أخيه
يوم يفر المرء من أخيه
وأمه وأبيه
وأمه وأبيه
وصاحبته وبنيه.
وصاحبته وبنيه.
Which means that day, man shall flee from his own brother and from his mother and father and from his wife and children. On that day, because of the intensity that the human being shall face, he will not pay heed to any of his relatives, not to his brother, nor his mother or father, nor his wife or children. And of course, that's for the one that is being punished and tortured, not for the one who is pious and safe. The one who is pious and safe, or the one who's been forgiven, he will not experience any of that on Judgment Day. And those Muslims who did right by each other, they will run towards each other. It's the Muslims that have done injustice to each other and that owe each other. One did injustice to another, and he didn't fix it, or he didn't make it right before death. So on Judgment Day, they're going to run away from each other because they don't want to see each other, because they know that this one, he has a right over that one. Verse 37, لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ.
لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه.
Which means for every individual among them, there is an issue that leaves him unconcerned about the concerns of others. Each one among them shall be too occupied with his own situation to pay heed to others. And we should be like that in this life, yani, not in the same type of context. Those that are going to be punished and those that are going to be terrified on Judgment Day, so they are going to be occupied with their own fear and horror of the consequences of the sins that they committed. So they're not going to be looking at the sins that someone else did. They're not going to be looking at, oh, that person did injustice to that person. They're going to be concerned about their own selves. Now, how does that translate for us here in this life? Here in this life, we should be concerned about our own selves in the sense that we need to make sure that we're doing what we need so that on that day, we won't be terrified, we won't be scared, we won't be fearing for ourselves because we prepared. So that preparation, what does it give us? What does it make us do? It makes us, for example, not pay attention to distractions. Not pay attention to what this person has, what that person has, the size of that person's house, the kind of car that he drives. Why would you preoccupy yourself with that when you need to preoccupy yourself with salvation in the grave? 38. وجوه يومئذ مسفرة. Faces on that day beaming. So now talking about who? Talking about those who prepared. The faces of the upright, righteous people shall be illuminated on the day of judgment, and they know of the goodness and luxury that awaits them. Allahu Akbar. In this life, think about it. In this life, let's say you just won the championship, right? You just won the championship, and you're waiting there in front of the judges, whatever, to get your gold medal. How would you be feeling? You'd be feeling, you would be beaming, you would be happy and full of joy that you have this success. Let's say you ordered something off the internet, right? You ordered something that you really wanted off the internet, and then it arrived. That thing that you wanted, it arrived, so you're so happy. You took a test in college or in school or whatever, and you're waiting for the results. You see the result is an A. You become so happy and full of joy, beaming, because you're so happy. Imagine on Judgment Day, those pious Muslims who, they were patient. They didn't let their anger make them disobey Allah. They went through it. They went through the emotions. They went through the pain. They went through the sadness. They went through the anger. But they didn't let that make them disobey Allah. They held on. They felt the hunger during the days of Ramadan, and they held on to Maghrib. They felt the thirst during the days of Ramadan. They held on to Maghrib. That single brother, for example, he held on to the urges, and he didn't commit fornication. That single sister, the same, etc. That businessman, he saw the opportunity to make, let's say, millions of dollars, but in a haram way. He held himself. He said, I'm not going to go down that path. The different ways that the pious person, he suppressed and repressed his inclinations and desires and urges. So he's going to be super happy on that day. The faces of the upright, righteous people shall be illuminated on Judgment Day, and they know of the goodness and luxury that awaits them. They know what's coming to them, paradise, reward. Ayah 39, ضَاحِكَةٌ مُسْتَبْشِرَةٌ, which means laughing and rejoicing. Their faces shall be delightful and gleaming with happiness due to the generosity that Allah endowed upon them. So they will be laughing, they will be rejoicing, they will be happy because of what they are going to get of the reward. And because they understand and they know that this is the reward that was promised to them, and they're seeing it now. Verse 40, وَوُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَلَيْهَا غَبَرَةٌ, which means, and faces on that day, upon them is dust. As for the faces of the blasphemers, they shall be dusty and ridden with sadness. So the non-Muslims, they know the reward, the punishment that they're going to receive. They know what they have missed out of the reward. They know what they're not going to get. They know what they missed out on. Why? Because they didn't believe in this life. Because they chose to disobey. Because they didn't suppress their desires and their urges. Because they just wanted to do what they wanted to do. Because they didn't want to obey Allah. They didn't want to leave out eating pork. They didn't want to leave out drinking alcohol. They didn't want to leave out fornication. They didn't want to leave out dealing in interest. They didn't want to leave out in other forbidden things. They wanted to feel like they were not guilty for fulfilling their evil desires. And so that's why they turned their back on Islam. That's why they rejected the call of the prophets, because of their desires, because they didn't want to judge themselves as being bad or committing a sin. So instead, they chose to reject a whole truth. They chose to reject the religion of Islam because they did not want to follow the rules. And so on that day, their faces will be dusty and ridden with sadness. You ever seen someone in this life when they're going through something, or when they're really sad, when they're depressed, they look like there's darkness on their face. They look like there's a cloud over their heads and there's no sunshine. The people on Judgment Day, the non-Muslims, they will look worse than that. Ayah 41, تَرْهَقُهَا قَتَرَةٌ, darkness covers it, and their faces shall be covered with darkness. So this is telling us again about the non-Muslims. Their faces will be blackened because of their sins and their transgression and their blasphemy. Verse 42, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَفَرَةُ الْفَجَرَةُ, which means those people, they are the blasphemers, the doers of iniquity. Those are the faces of the blasphemers and doers of iniquity and doers of sin. Since they have merged between iniquity and blasphemy, their faces were made dusty, and on top of that dust is additional darkness. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from that. We'll start with a little bit of Surah At-takweer. Starting with Basmala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. It means when the sun is wrapped up. When the sun loses its light and becomes dark. The scholars, they said that the sun will be gathered, wrapped, and thrown into hellfire. And so this is as a ridicule and humiliation for the non-Muslims, because some of them in this life, they worship the sun. So if you take history class or whatever, they teach you about some old civilizations that they used to worship the sun. And they used to make these pyramid-like structures, and like at certain times, if there was an eclipse or something like that, they would take a person up there and they would sacrifice that person, because they thought that the reason the eclipse is happening is because supposedly, as they claim, the sun god is mad, and so they want to sacrifice someone so that the so-called sun god would not be mad anymore. And so that they killed a lot of people like that, subhanallah. So the sun will be thrown into hellfire, so that those people that worship the sun, they can see the absurdity of what they have done. Verse number 2, وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ. Which means that when the stars scatter and fall. When the stars scatter, drop, and lose their light. So the stars also as well, they will drop and they will lose their light. Verse number 3, وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ. Which means that when the mountains are set into motion. When the mountains are wrenched out from the earth and leveled as earth was first created, without mountains or valleys. So the whole entire landscape of the earth is going to be changed. And this is for Judgment Day. Verse 4, وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ. Which means that when the 10-month pregnant she-camels are abandoned. So the she-camel, when it's 10 months pregnant, is called Ishar. Or it's called Ushara. And the plural is Ishar. So the camel is called like that, Ushara, until she delivers. As long as her pregnancy does not exceed 12 months. So such a camel, why is it mentioned? Because it's very precious to the owners. Yet they have to leave her unattended without a shepherd and without one milking her, because they are overwhelmed by other matters. This similitude alludes to Judgment Day, when no one pays any heed to what he used to have. So it's referring to being occupied by the dire events of Judgment Day. Nobody's going to care about a camel. Verse 5, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ. Which means that when the beasts are herded. This refers to when the beasts are gathered after resurrection. The beasts will be gathered on Judgment Day to take their due from one another, after which they will turn into soil. Although the beasts are not accountable for their deeds, still this happens to make apparent the justice of the Creator. And so Allah Ta'ala is the most just. And also this ayah carries the explicit proof that animals have souls. Because even though we say animals don't have minds, they do have souls. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. We'll stop there. We got up to ayah number 6 of At-takweer. If there are no questions, we'll conclude. نهلل لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات وبارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم.